What is going on, everyone? Badger here. Sure to like and sub, and let's get into this. Ubisoft, I mean, there must be blood in the water or something, because not only are they getting it from us and from the everyday gaming public, they're getting it from other developers. And so here's Baldur's Gate 3 developer blasting Ubisoft over their sales strategy. And I do love some of the quotes we hear here. Of course, gamers should get used to not owning their games. Then developers must get used to not having jobs. Now, this all comes from Michael Dowse, the director of publishing for Baldur's Gate 3, and its developers, Larian Studios, of course, roasting Ubisoft in the wake of absolute blunders. The main, which one, right? Because we could talk about Ubisoft, we could talk about X Defiant, we could be talking about the delaying of Assassin's Creed, we could be talking about Star Wars Outlaws being a fail. The list goes on and on. In this case, they're talking about Prince of Persia: The Last Crown, in which case you're going, what? There was a Prince of Persia game? There was, and he had that oh so fun Killmonger haircut, and no one played it. And in fact, the last time we talked about something related to this story, people were like, there was a Prince of Persia game? Goes to show you. And so we can see it was earlier in the week that, of course, Ubisoft had disbanded the team that worked on Prince of Persia: The Last Crown. Had a couple of different people talk about it, including the French YouTube channel Origami, where they were talking like you could see people moving boxes around and leaving their offices, going on to say that the team made the decision. This is the video we covered the other day. The team made the decision to cancel it just after it released, because the numbers were horrible. So by the time of spring, yeah, they got patches and a DLC, and then that was it. And while Ubisoft, of course, always tries to make it seem like, no, we're good, we're fine, we did this and that, it always ends up failure after failure. And then they wonder why it doesn't work. And then the developers get mad and they blame the toxic gaming audience, even though it could be farther from the truth of whose actual fault it is. And that's where we see enter a wild Dowse. And he says the last notable game on their platform was arguably Far Cry 6 in 2021, which, even though Giancarlo Esposito had a very nice performance as the boss there, the gameplay was severely lacking in the level system and shooting people in the face with a low-level gun and they barely die. Just not what I wanted from a Far Cry game. So the Crew, Mirage, and Avatar came in 2023, didn't perform, so you can assume subscriptions were at a lull when Prince of Persia released by 2024, which means people wouldn't be launching their store all too much. Yeah, what are people jumping into that subscription model store to play with? If it had released on Steam, not only would it have been a market success, but there would likely be a sequel because the team are so strong. It's such a broken strategy. The hardest thing is to make a 85 plus game. It is much easier to release one. It just shouldn't be done as it was. And this is, of course, PC Gamer saying Ubisoft made a good Prince of Persia game, so of course it disbanded the team shortly after the release. Yeah, no word on if it was actually good. Definitely word on that it didn't sell. No one played it. I would just say word of mouth, of course, whether it was on Steam or not. If the statement gamers should get used to not owning their games is true because of a specific release strategy, then the statement developers must get used to not having jobs if they make a critically acclaimed game, platform strategy above title sales, is also true, and that just isn't sensible even from a business perspective. Well, that just goes to the whole tale of it's entirely possible that they're doing a lot of this stuff to ruin their company on purpose. And that's when you get into the tinfoil hat of this is all the Guillemot brothers and Tencent working to sabotage. I've heard it both ways. You can see here they never hit more than 1,500 people, less than 200 people playing in the past 24 hours. Dowse goes on. This is not the first time he's criticized Ubisoft, notably during when Star Wars Outlaws came out, saying, I don't love the artificiality of pricing structures post-retail. Use the inflated base price to upsell a subscription and use vague content promises to inflate ultimate editions to make the base price look better. It all seems a bit dangerous and disconnected from the community. It's called Predatory. It's called Predatory. They knew very well what they were doing. And also, most of this content that they stripped out was content that should have been in the base game that was pulled out to be sold back to you. It says, I think a game should be priced accordingly with its quality, breadth and depth. I'm not against higher prices, but this arbitrary uniformity just doesn't make sense to me. It feels so unserious. Almost all games should cost more at a base level because the cost of making them in full inflation, for one, is outpacing pricing trends. But I don't think we'll get there with DLC promises so much as quality and communication. Everyone's just waiting for GTA 6 to do it. Well, various people who are not very astute failed to understand that my point was perhaps $70 to $80 games that function properly and have the full content and DLC to back it up are better than buggy, janky slop repacked with shite skins for $120. And that is all we get now. That is all we get. The latter exists because the former doesn't. And then just finishing up here, he says, a brief economic lesson. Bulk of development cost is salaries. If a company is sensible, they afford inflation increases to developers. This rises costs over time. Last 2 years astronomically, increases risk. What do most AAA games do? Reduce risk. How? Play it safe, follow trends. This leads to look at AI, and people to look at AI and automation as a beacon of hope for our cost problem, when really the problem is the impossible to solve task of lack of foresight about what anyone should be making. There are outliers. None of them risk-averse strategies typically make better games. If you want really engaging, super polished, premium experiences, you won't, because it is economically impossible, save for a few token outliers. Get them from risk-averse strategy. I want good games. I get mad at bad games. I also price games far below. Again, I had faith, so I'm not the suit ripping people off. Thanks. Yeah, no, it seems like he's pointing out the actual suits ripping people off. And so disavow. I never played the Prince of Persia game. Honestly, wasn't even aware of it when it came out because the marketing was horrible. And then obviously it wasn't on a platform I was going to go subscribe to. And it's a side scroller. And the last time they tried to really make a proper Prince of Persia game over there, it turned into the Assassin's Creed series. So what are we doing? Anyway, you let me know what you think about all this. Sure, like, share, and sub. If you have done that, thank you. If you're going to do that, thank you.
Well, bye.